Welcome back, all seekers, initiates, mages, and sages, curious individuals. This is Intro to Magic. I'm Justin B., and this is episode 5. In this episode, we will dive into the secrets of the imagination, its parts, functions, how to use it to work magic. 3.5 billion years ago, this planet started producing life. Now, whether that life originated here on Earth or was seeded via panspermia from another world, the subtle force was here. The subtle force is not bound by time or space, and it contains within it all qualities and all information. So the subtle force, or life force, would have imbued our early planet with qualities and information from any and all theoretical alien worlds. Intentionally influenced or not, our world has always been, and always will be, a part of the whole of creation. As life evolved and became more advanced, so did its ability to seek out and acquire things it needed or desired. Instinctual drives and motivations matured and varied into wants and favorites, particular appetites. All of this being impressed upon the subtle force, and through genetic memory, gave rise to particular long-lasting forms being built up in the subtle force. These became known as nature spirits. Animism teaches us that all individual beings have their own individual soul, a unique personality, character, and qualities unique to that being. But it also teaches us that we are all connected. Our souls are part of a group soul. And over time, as the evolutionary tree of life has developed, so has this mirror on the astral realm. Individual animals bear the imprint of the soul, and when they die, their soul and all the lessons learned and qualities gained and experience absorbs back into this group animal soul. Humans also have a mammalian animal soul that bears the imprint of our history and our culture and all our desires and motivations, just as any other animal does. It's called in many traditions the great man, in Hebrew, the Adam Kadmon, and our individual animal soul is called the Nefesh. In mystic traditions, there is this motivation to evolve and to become enlightened. So this is being imprinted on our group animal soul and has developed a new bud, a new branch, a Metatron, a Christ, an evolved, enlightened human being, a individual, immortal body of light. So as I was saying, as life develops, it seeks and learns and has new wants and desires start to motivate it. The way these motivations are understood to an individual is the imagination. So, for instance, if hunger arises in a basic organism, it seeks nourishment, nutrients in the environment the best it can, just like anything else. But once life advances, it has more options in order to fulfill those certain needs. The need or desire forms and arises in the imagination, creating an ideal target that would satisfy the various urgings. In a complex being like a human, the imagination can clothe this urge for nourishment quite easily in a variety of symbolic forms, from producing a ripe fruit in the imagination's mind's eye, to the sizzle of meat cooking on an open flame, to the imagination's inner ear. The imagination is quite capable of producing these seemingly real hallucinations to us very easily when the desire arises. So why do so many initiates struggle when trying to produce an image or form or sound in the imagination? Most people go about working with the imagination in the wrong way. They strain and they struggle to force the imagination to produce an image as if they're sculpting it with their willpower. And using so much mental effort, it doesn't get them anywhere. What needs to be understood is the imagination gives form and shape to desire. So first, one must have the desire, then release it into the imagination, into the soul, so it can be clothed with the necessary qualities in order to produce the sensations within the sphere of sensation. I'll say it a different way. Desire is first. Then, once the desire is there, release it, allowing the imagination to produce the experience on its own, without your input or struggle. The imagination does this by drawing the needed qualities from the subtle force to produce the sensation within the aura of the person. Another factor in working with the imagination effectively is to imagine it as if it were already real. You can call this faith or belief, but it boils down to just assuming the desired quality, sensation, or experience will happen and appear in the imagination, just awaiting it. Imagine being a child in a dark room, the fear of the unknown. The dark creates an expectant state of mind. The imagination kicks in, and the desire to identify any threat fills the space of imagination with frightening imagery. One just knows that the clothes on the chair is a person, or there just is a monster under the bed or in the closet. This as-if thinking communicates to the imagination the qualities or sensations that are expected, and it dutifully produces them. Use this principle as if to expect the imagination to produce the desired sensation, and your imagination ability will not fail you. Like buying a movie ticket, sitting in the theater, impatiently expecting that the movie you came to see will show. Look out and through the darkness of the closed eyes of the image to arise on its own. Prick up your ears, expecting the sound will ring true. Use your focus and awareness like a radar, sweeping for any contact with a sensation that may be produced, knowing eventually it will arise. Let me give you a technique to help with this. I call it the magic hand. The magic hand is a simple practice that anyone can do. You just take a few objects that you find interesting. Make sure they have varied surfaces and different tactile feels. Put them before you and inspect them and rub them and test them. Try to get a sense of what sensations or qualities are in each object, their temperature and dimension. Now, put them down, sit down, relax, close your eyes, and begin to place your awareness in your arm and hand. Doesn't matter which one, right or left, whichever one you feel most comfortable with. Have your attention and your awareness on your hand and arm. Feel the sensations within your arm, your hand. And slowly move your awareness, guiding that subtle force within your hand up and out of your physical hand and into the sphere of sensation. You are moving your awareness outwards towards the object, but guiding the subtle force within this extended hand, this magic hand, out with it as well. You will now pick up with your magic hand each of the objects you had studied before. They are the imagined objects, not the actual physical objects. You're not a Jedi yet. Now, try to recreate the tactile feel and weight, the temperature of each of the objects you selected. Have the desire to perceive, to open up your awareness, just to experience what's there. Allow the sensations to come to you. Don't force it. Now, place each object back down, and once you're all done, reabsorb your awareness and those sensations and subtle force back into your physical hand, back into your arm, through the sphere of sensation, back into the confines of your physical being. This practice of the magic hand can really develop the skills needed to accurately perceive what is present. the passive awareness, and then through concentration, develop and work with what is perceived through the imagination. So, as I keep saying, attention increases the amount of subtle force collected in a given space. So, when one perceives passively with the magic hand, the stretched out awareness with subtle force filling it, then one is perceiving the energies, the qualities that are within the subtle force that are already present in an object or a space. By that concentration, that energy starts to grow and become stronger. So, what are these qualities and sensations that I keep bringing up? Quality and sensation, they're both linked. Quality is the essence of the sensation, what one experiences as the sensation, and that sensation is sort of symbolic to the qualities that make up that form. Sages and mages of all cultures have found that if any sensation is investigated in the sphere of sensation, it breaks down, like atoms in physics, into a few basic building blocks. They called these building blocks the elements. Space is one, being the creative void containing all qualities and sensations. Then you have fire with heat and expansion. Air is a mix of fire and water, producing warmth and moisture. Steam. Then water is cold and contracting, the polar opposite of fire. Finally, you have earth, the cool, dry, and heavy quality. Eastern mystics had a slightly different map of the elements, starting with wood, the growing, fertile life force that springs forth. Then fire, the life force is bursting with heat and power. Then it cools and becomes stable, like earth, contracting and cooling continues until it all solidifies and the life force becomes stable and hard. This would be the metal stage. Finally, it reaches total contraction and seeks freedom. The life force liquefies itself, returning to the ocean of subtle force. Ponder these similarities and differences between the two great traditions that have studied the elements within the subtle force. As the mystics and sages studied these qualities along with the planetary influences and the zodiacal qualities, they became codified, and they realized that qualities or sensations produced an accompanying symbolic effect in the imagination and sphere of sensation. From this, they created systems of divination, mirroring the symbolic forms that the qualities influenced on our imagination. All divination systems work based on the idea that when certain qualities are present in the universe or the macrocosm, they also influence and are mirrored in our sphere of sensation, the microcosm. So this influences our decision to use the divinatory system, as well as what tokens or cards are being pulled. The mages also discovered that by selecting willfully and intelligently a symbolic image of the qualities desired, one can create a magnet, drawing a greater collection in order to influence and manifest a result. So, for example, taking an upright triangle image or a tattva of fire, meditating or concentrating on that image, the qualities of heat and expansion begin to collect through the subtle force around the image. Where attention goes, energy flows. Another example is taking a tarot card, say the Magus, and placing it in front of you and concentrating on the image, which will draw into your life, in accordance with the focus used, the qualities of Mercury, such as enhanced mental abilities, eloquence, and cunning, which might be useful for a podcast. So you can see why so many books on magic have lists and require studying these lists of elemental qualities and qualities of the planets and things that are symbolically associated or imagery connected to each of these individual qualities. These tomes provide a sort of alphabet of desire, a grammar book or grimoire of how a desire can be encoded and clothed with form in order to work with the needed quality, in order to create this magnet that draws in the concentrated subtle force relating to the desired result. The imagination also has a function as a translator. So, when working on the astral level of perception, the imagination clothes the energetic sphere sensation or aura of plants, animals, and other forces of nature into a more humanized form in order to interact with them. So physically, you may be looking at a flower, but if you wanted to interact with that flower on a soul level, one would use their imagination to connect with that plant, and then one would perceive something like a fairy or a nature spirit based on the qualities the imagination perceives within it. So a healthy, vibrant plant produces a luminous being, a little fairy, while a sick, dying plant may produce something less lovely and harmonious looking, more troll-like. Now imagine what the imagination would translate the solar beings as, or planetary beings as, the stars, their asterisms in the night sky. Imagine the imagination interacting with those forces. How do you think it would translate them? What form, color, and shape would it provide those forces? This translating and interacting ability of the imagination also allows us some insight into hauntings, the subtle force having recorded within it the occurrences of a property or location onto the astral form of that location or structure. Once living attention and focus is placed upon it by the experiencer, it manifests those stored qualities and sensations into our current experience, producing all the phenomenon of a haunting. The same could even be said for encounters with cryptids or, say, Bigfoot. With our attention and our imagination focused on nature and that land, what sort of qualities would it be picking up and interacting with? What experiences would come up, memories from that area? So to review, the awareness accesses, perceives, and works with the subtle force through the imagination. It can access all time and space through the imagination. Any desire that arises within the organism through genetics or culture produces a symbolic experience based on the essence and qualities within that desire. By using attention and concentration, thinking as if a particular desire is real and present, one can build up a quantity and a condensation of a desired quality through magical, symbolic imagery, such as a tarot card or a sigil. Releasing such desires and imagery into the sphere of sensation will cause an influence or directive to have that desire fulfilled. But releasing that condensed quality into the macrocosm causes a directive to manifest that desire into the world at large. I have but one book recommendation for you this episode, and that's Alexandra David Neal's Magic and Mystery into Tibet. Recommended because it mostly deals with the power of the imagination and how people through expectancy and belief and desire sort of either cause inanimate objects to have magical abilities or to create from the subtle force and through the agency of the imagination spirits. This is where the idea of the tulpa in Western culture comes from. Is from this book, Magic and Mystery into Tibet. If you haven't read it yet and you are really into magic, I really recommend you pick this book up and read it thoroughly and try to understand the teachings that it's giving in it. So I hope this episode helps you in your practice and shines a light into the darkness of the imagination. So join me next time where we will explore the 3 major energy centers of the body. Until then, I am Justin B., and good magic to you.